Hello and welcome to video number 20 in Embolden's video tutorial project. In this video, we're going to begin talking about images. We're going to talk about how to add an image that's already on your server to the text of a page in this RAD editor interface. We will follow this up with a video that talks about how to crop and size properly, which is crucially important, and you will hear us mention over and over and over again. And then we will end with a video that talks about how to upload that cropped and sized image up to the server so that you can add it to your page. But for now, we'll just start with how to add an image that is already on your site, already up there on the server to your text. So I usually like to click this maximize icon, this full screen icon down here, and work in the full screen mode of the editor when I'm working with images. When I want to add an image, when you want to add an image, you want to put the cursor at the beginning of the paragraph where you want the image to go. Even if the image should be over on the right, you still want the cursor at the beginning of the paragraph. Don't try to figure out where the image should go over here. Don't click all the way over on the right. Don't try to guess where the line is going to break. Just put the cursor at the beginning of that paragraph. Then you want to click the image manager icon. That's little mountains with the sunrise or sunset there. And that's going to bring up an interface that's going to show you all the images you have on your server, and you can find the one you want to insert. So I've already properly sized and cropped an image to add and created a new folder. So it's in here. The same things that we talked about with the document manager all apply here. You can create new folders, you can move images around, you can drag it from here to here and put it in a different folder. You can right click to rename them. But if you do any of those things, any tags that call the image currently are going to break. So you would have, if this image were already on the site and I renamed it, any page where that image existed would now have a broken image tag. So I can select an image, and since this is Embolden, of course it's an image of a puppy, and if I click insert, that will insert the image. But before I do that, I want to show you the properties. You won't be setting most of these, but I want you to see what they are and what you should and shouldn't touch. So the first two properties are the height and width of the image, and this is measured in pixels. Again, you always want to make sure that your image is the correct pixel dimensions before you upload it. If it's supposed to be 400 by 200 pixels, that's what it should be. Not just this aspect ratio, but those actual dimensions. The border color and the border width, you should not touch. And same thing with all this down here, the image alignment and the margins, you should not touch. All of those things will be determined by the class, which we will go over in just a moment. The alt text is the one property that you will want to set. And what alt text does is it gives an actual text description of that image. So if somebody is using a browser that cannot see the image itself, that can't display the image for some reason, it will be able to have some text that tells you what the image is about. This is also somewhat helpful for things like Google image search. Google image search takes alt text into account when it's trying to figure out if you're searching for puppies, which images on the web are about puppies. The reason alt text is important in this day and age, as opposed to in the early days when people might just have a browser that didn't show images because they didn't have Netscape yet. Now, our main concern of people not being able to see images are visually impaired people who are using screen reading tools. So you might have a tool that's going to read all the text to you on a page, but if you hit an image, it doesn't know how to describe what that image is. So you want to put some text in that allows a visually impaired person to get a description of the image. Now, if this image is just a decorative image, so it's not really adding information to the page, it's just making the page look a little better. Maybe it's a stock photo, maybe it's even a real photo, and it's a group of people, and this is a press release about an award, and this is the group of people that got the award. It's still not super crucial to have an in-depth description of that photo. You can just put the people's names if they're not in the text of a caption or something, or you can just put photo of award recipients or whatever. There's not information that's really missing by not having an in-depth description of that photo. However, if if the image itself is a chart or a graph, or the image contains some text that it's important for the person to read. For example, sometimes people, and we would never recommend this is a bad practice, but sometimes people would have a headline that, rather than actually having the headline as actual text, they would make the headline in Photoshop and save it as a GIF so that they could control the typography better. Now you can do most of that on the web, control typography with live text. But if you had something like that where this is actual information being conveyed by this graphic, then you want to make sure whatever information that is conveyed in the alt text. So whatever words are in there or whatever information is conveyed by the graph, you want to make sure somebody who cannot see it still gets that information from the alt text in here. But in this case, it's a picture of a puppy, so I can just put puppy, and that's enough. So I'm going to click insert. We will apply a class in a minute, but I want you to see what it looks like without the class before we do this. So I'm going to click insert, and we're going to add our photo. So now we have our photo of the puppy. In fact, we can see if I hover my mouse over it, it says puppy. It's giving us our alt text. We can also see that there's a ton of white space over here that wasn't here a minute ago that we don't want. And the text is bumping right up against the image, which we also don't want. What we want is for the text to wrap around the image and to have a little bit of padding to make it just look nicer and keep the text more readable. To do that, we click on here, and this is where we apply the class. So we could have applied the class in the image properties, or over here, we can just select it, and then from the apply CSS class dropdown, we're going to choose image left. If you are an Embolden client, you will most likely have two classes, image left and image right. You may also have two more classes, image left border and image right border. These do exactly what they sound like they do. So we have our image, it's floating to the left. It has some padding, looks great. The padding's only on the right and the bottom. We don't have padding over to the left here. If we wanted this to float over to the right and have the text wrap around it, we can do that. Just choose image right. And again, you're not going to drag the image and try to figure out where it should go. You're not going to drag the image over here. You're just going to tell it, apply the class image right, and let the web browser figure out how to make it display properly. So that's the basics of adding images. The one last thing that we want to mention, and this will segue into our next video on cropping and sizing, is even though you have these little boxes here, as I mentioned, you do not want to use them to resize the image. This is how most people are used to working with Microsoft Word or other page layout programs. They can just drag an image in, and they can click on this and drag these around to make the image whatever size they want, and that's maybe fine for something that's intended to be printed, but when you're dealing with a website, you really want to have the image be the correct number of pixels and have this display at the actual size. So if the image is too large, you want to crop it and resize it and upload the cropped and resized version rather than have a huge image on the page that you're just telling the browser, hey, download this huge image to the client's computer, but then once it's on there, resize it and make it look smaller. It's just not an efficient use of bandwidth or computing resources, and they tend to not look too great when you do that. So that's the basics of adding images. Up next, we will show you exactly how to crop and size an image and get the correct dimensions and all of that, and then we'll show you how to upload that image in case you want to add an image that's not already on the server.